Welcome back, silver fans. Silver and the End of the World, Part 2. Possible silver scenarios from the apocalyptic to the mundane. A quick review. Cycles are silver cycle, silver bull, pullback, market destruction, meltdown, financial collapse, and apocalyptic or end time. In the first one we looked at the silver cycle, then we looked at the silver bull. We're now up to pullback. The next possible scenario. This video is being done in November 2010, and silver was trying to get to $30 an ounce, but it's currently been pulled back. Alright, and some people would see that we're in a pullback. In this scenario, the silver market may be pulled back for a number of reasons. One of them could be another global financial crisis or a double dip recession. And in such a scenario, in 2008 we saw silver go from a high of near $20 or over $20 down to a low of under $10, down to about $9. So quite a drop there, and that was because industrial demand died in the arse because the world economy shrunk, and people just weren't buying as many computers, TVs, solar panels or whatever, so industrial demand died, and with it the value of silver died. So some would say if we have a double dip recession or another global financial crisis, that silver may pull back. Now I'm saying that's unlikely, and the reason why I think it's unlikely second time round is because in the first global financial crisis people went flooding to something they thought had security. They went flooding to US bonds because traditionally they thought, oh, previously when this sort of things happened we go to US bonds and we're safe. But people who did that this time got burnt big time, because US bonds weren't the safest things, although there was a temporary rise in the US currency because all these people were flooding into US bonds. If they're still holding those bonds, they're kicking themselves because they have been burned big time. The US dollar has died in the arse, and those bonds weren't even returning that much interest, so why would you buy one? Absolutely crazy. So I don't think that'll happen second time around. If we do have a double dip or another GFC, we're not going to see silver die in the arse. You may see industrial demand for silver die in the arse, but I think in such a case investor demand is going to pick up the slack because people got burned last time going into bonds, so where are they going to go? They're going to go into precious metals, gold and silver. Okay, so even in a pullback scenario, I don't think we're going to see quite a drop. I'm not saying it's impossible, I just don't think it's going to go that way. The other thing is market manipulation, and if you watched my previous videos, there's some argument whether the market is currently still being manipulated. People deliberately trying to pull back the price of silver. They don't want it to become a precious metal again for their own agenda, and they're going to short it. They've been doing it for so long now they can't do anything but. The problem is you can't fight the market forever. Laws of supply and demand will eventually catch up. It's possible for a period of time, but it's not possible forever, and these people are going to get burnt by it. So although yeah, we can have a pullback due to market manipulation, I don't see that happening forever. And with the way it's going at the moment, every time there's a pullback people are buying, and that's pushing the demand up. What we may end up happening is, and some other commentators are talking about, is there's becoming a dislocation between the physical silver price and the ETF price, and the more that happens, like the spot price may say one thing, but out in the real marketplace you can't buy silver at the spot price, and that dislocation is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. So the spot price for silver may be 25, but you can't find anywhere under 30 to buy it per ounce. So what will happen if that happens more? We'll have the ETFs just become some sort of fairyland where they become so dislocated from the market that they're irrelevant, and the ETFs will self-destruct in such a scenario. So in the real world, the physical price is what matters. Because although we're having this pullback at the moment, it's not going to make a difference unless there's a pullback where you buy your silver. And if they're still saying, no, I'm selling it for this because the market's demanding, the market demand is there, then it's not a real pullback. So we'll see what happens. Interesting times. Alright, the next one is government intervention. You could see a definite pullback if the government gets involved in the precious metal markets. They've done it before. It is a possibility, either through regulation, taxation, nationalisation or confiscation. Let's say they decide we can't get enough tax out of people by taxing their income. We already take over half their money. How else are we going to manage this? Well, they might say, alright, everyone holding a kilo bar of silver that has to pay a $20 tax a year. They'd have some sort of excuse for it. No, I don't put anything above governments when it comes to trying to get income. Or, like as happened in the 1930s depression, they essentially nationalised gold. They said you've got to sell all your gold to the government. They sold it at a specific price. From recollection, it may have been about $15 an ounce. As soon as they got all the gold they wanted, they then said, haha, we're going to say gold's now worth $30 an ounce. And everyone who had lost their gold lost half its value. Mass devaluation of the dollar. So that's nationalisation, or just straight out confiscation, where they say there's a war on, it's a strategic resource, we need it. Normally they say voluntarily give it to the government, or they may say we're just going to take it. And certainly in periods of crisis, anything is possible. Okay, so that's scenario 3, pullback, where you see the price of silver pullback. Scenario 4 is market destruction. There'll be some out there, I'm sure, where I'll get comments that say you're crazy, silver could never be destroyed in price. Okay, this is scenario silver becomes a base metal with little value, possibly through a technological innovation. An example of this has happened before. Aluminium used to be a precious metal. Back before the time of Napoleon, it was on par with gold. They had bullion bars of aluminium because it was so valuable. However, because of new refining methods, aluminium now is not a precious metal. If you had a time travel machine and you needed to go back in time and you thought, how am I going to manage to take back something of no value now for something of incredible value back then, you'd take your aluminium cans because they're worth nothing now. You drink soft drinks out of them and throw them in the trash or the bin. Or if you're conscious, you put them in the recycling bin. But if you had a time travel machine, you'd go back in time and you'd find that aluminium was a precious metal worth a lot of money. And it's now a base metal. So could that happen to silver? The only way I can see that happening is if they came up with some new technological innovation where they could take silver out of the oceans. If you don't realise, the silver in the oceans is huge quantities. Our oceans are so big. Okay, like we've got here that the oceans are full of dissolved gold, and that's at 0.00011 parts per million. In the case of silver, it's about 200 times more. There's more silver in the oceans, and that's at 0.00028 parts per million. Now that sounds like a very tiny quantity, and it is. But what you've got to realise, the oceans are so large that taken across the planet, that is just a huge quantity of silver, ridiculous amounts of silver. Millions upon millions upon millions of ounces of silver dissolved in the ocean. So if someone could come up with a way to get this dissolved metal out of the oceans really cheap, you'd find metals would become hugely cheap. So just about every metal, even gold, would become a base metal because they could just drag it out of the ocean. Now that'd be bad for a number of reasons. The first one, it'd destroy all your mining companies. So that's probably why it wouldn't happen. You'd find if someone came up with a process by which they did that, someone would either buy it off them or force them to sell it, or you'd find that technological innovation would disappear along with the inventor probably. There's too much at stake. So although it's a possibility, this scenario is unlikely for that reason. There'd be people who'd want to stop that occurring. The other drama is environmental reasons. That silver, the chemical soup we have in the ocean, actually serves a purpose. And there's lots of processes, some that we don't even understand, where silver is cycled in the oceans and used. If we were to take it out, we might stuff up our planet even more than we've done so far. So that's scenario 4, market destruction. Stay tuned for part 3.